The PXG I am excited with this one. I've never ever tested the PXG Ions before, and for me to have the opportunity to test these, I am properly excited. I get to hit lots of different golf clubs, and certainly have over the last few years, and I've never ever hit a PXG Ion. So this one is going to be fun. Now, because I've never hit these irons before, I just wanted to bring them to the practice ground where I could have an opportunity to hit quite a few shots in a row. And first impressions is the feel is unbelievable. I have never ever felt a feel like this off the club face. I can't explain it right now because I've only hit about 4 or 5 shots, but as I go on, I'm hoping to be able to sort of dig down a little bit deeper into how I'm feeling or what they feel like when they come off the club face. But at the moment, it is different and I'm absolutely loving it. Right, 4 different models that I've got to test here today, and these are the 0311 ST. So this is the blade, and this comes in at 33 degrees in loft. I then have the 0311T, which now comes in at 32 degrees in loft, so just that fraction slightly stronger in its loft. Then we move into the 0311P, so this is the player's iron, and this comes in at 31 degrees aloft. And then lastly, we've got the 0311XP, which is the extreme performance head, which comes in at 28 degrees aloft. Now, obviously there's a variance and difference of lofts here with the 7 irons that I've got to test, but what PXG are telling me is that when we look at our numbers later on when we head back to the studio, we should see peak heights going at about the same height. Now, what PXG is saying is as they're moving that CG lower and further back, as you move into the XP range, you should see that loft come down to compensate for the pushing up of the golf ball from the initial launch. The guys at PXG, when I was talking to them about these clubs, is they were saying that the feel off the face should be very, very similar right the way through. And I've got to say, just with the sort of few shots that I've hit with the XP and then the P range, now moving into the T range, I'm definitely feeling a sense of that they are very, very similar in their feel. However, as I'm moving now into the T range, I'm feeling more of a solid feel rather than that sort of tinny feel that you get in those maybe game improvement irons. Sometimes when you get hollow construction irons or big cavity back irons, you start to get a feeling or almost a flex in the face or a tinny feel. Certainly I get that. And then as you move into more blades, you get more of a solid feel, sort of firmer off the face. Not a massive difference when I've moved from the XP to the P to now the T, but definitely feeling that little bit of solidness now coming out of the T. And what I love about these irons, just first and foremost when I look from the back of them, is that if you were sort of playing these as a combo set, well, they just kind of work because you don't have a massive difference in the actual look in your golf bag. This is a big statement. This is probably the best feeling iron I have ever hit. Oh, that's big. Forged 5 times these heads, CNC milled back surface. We've got the impact reactor powered by extreme dual core technology. We've got ultra thin face and an internal face perimeter channel, robotic laser welding face, and a signature perimeter weighting technology with robotic polishing. The other thing that I actually really like about these clubs, just again picking them up, I mean, grip is a grip to me, but this one here has got a little bit of a sort of a patterning on it, which over time, over years, companies have released clubs or grips with different patterns on them. But lots of people ask me about getting grips with where they know where they can put their hands. And I love this little V at the bottom. It kind of almost allows me to know exactly where I should be gripping the club. So my right hand sits on top, and then I follow this V. I try and get my right hand into that V at the bottom there. It's small touches like that it just, I don't know, just puts them a little bit above someone else maybe. Oh, God. Got to take these onto the golf course. That is so good. When I've looked at reviews of PXG over the years, lots of comments that I've read are that they look very similar to the Ping. Now, when I look down at certainly the ST range, I am seeing very much a look of the Blueprint. So the Blueprint blade iron is looking very, very similar when I look down on top of this club as to what I would see with this. But the big difference for me, and I haven't got a Blueprint to sort of put it against here at this moment in time, but the big difference for me is that the Blueprint, which I rated as probably one of the nicest bladed irons that I've seen, this one just sort of has to take it over that, in the fact that it's slightly bigger in its profile. The Blueprint was a lot firmer off the face, whereas this one is definitely moving into a more softer feel. As to be expected with these though, as you move through the set, so from the blade right the way up to the XP, you're seeing a slight difference in offset. So very little offset in the ST to then a little bit more offset in the XP. It's not too offensive though, to be honest with you. So for me, when I'm choosing a set of irons, a big part of that is looking down on top of them. So having, let's say, the top line. How does the top line look to me? So as I'm looking at these particular irons, there is a progression of the top line getting thicker, as we would expect really, as the sort of mass of the material that they're using gets a lot more when you move into sort of the XP range from the ST. But what they've tried to do is they've tried to sort of, I don't know, sort of roll the top edge a little bit. So it kind of, the top line is looking as thin as what the blade is, but then they've got a little bit of extra sort of material on the back of that, which you can see they've tried to sort of shape it off, which in turn, when you look down at it, it's kind of subtly trying to move that top line a little bit thinner. So for players like me, if I'm looking to blend from the blade and then sort of progressively combo through the set, that top line is going to look as good sort of up in the 4 and 5 iron as it is down at sort of the wedge and even the 9 iron. I like it. Right, we'll hit one more and then we'll get into the studio. Shall we have a little look at some of the numbers? Oh. Even the bottom groove felt soft. So let's look at the numbers of what these irons are going to give us then. ST to start us off with, 116 in the ball speed, launching at 20 degrees, spin at 6,200, which is about right for what that loft is showing us, peaking out at 34 yards high and an average carry of 160. So that's pretty much spot on to where I would put my 7 iron. If we then move into the T, which now a little bit stronger in that loft, 118 in the ball speed, launch at 19.6, so launch pretty much the same as the ST, spinning just a fraction lower at 5.9 there, peaking out at 35 yards high, which again, only 1 yard difference between those two irons, and then 165 on the carry. That sort of combination of a little bit lower spin is just giving us that little bit further in yardage, and obviously the ball speed as well. Then we move into the P, and that's giving us a 119 ball speed, so again, a little bit stronger off the face, launching at 19.2, so just a fraction lower in the launch, 5.7 on the spin, and peaking out at 35 yards, so yards high. So if you think that the spin on those 3 clubs already is just starting to drop down, but peaking out at the same point on pretty much all of them, and then 167, so slightly further than what I'm getting out of the T. If we then move into the XP, we've got 124 ball speed, so really sort of pressing that ball speed off the face now, launching now at 17.8. Now the launch is starting to come down a bit, and the spin at 5,000 spin, that's definitely a lot lower. If we go from the ST here at 6.2, now down to 5,000. But look at that, peaking out at 35 yards high, an average carry of 179. So that sort of combination of lower in the launch, higher ball speed, lower spin, it's just sending it out there just that little bit further. Now, it's something that I have to mention, and it is the price of these clubs. It's something that you guys always ask me to sort of talk about with price. I don't normally mention price because ultimately it shifts, it changes from country to country, but the RRP for these particular irons, $425 US out in the States, and then £440 recommended retail in the UK. So price point is definitely at a premium with these particular irons. So there you go, there's the review of the Generation 3 PXG irons. Absolutely, these lived up to my expectations of what they are. Feel, cannot beat it. Looks, is it 100% what I want to look at when I look down at a golf club? Probably not quite there, but from a feel point of view, I think that would probably override any sort of looks that I would have looking down at those clubs. My first outing with a set of PXGs, and I've got to say, fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I can see the price point putting a lot of people off when they come into these irons. Could I justify spending that sort of money on a set of irons like these? I'm not sure I could, certainly not in my lifestyle at the moment, but each to their own on that. Put your comments down below, let me know, have you been out and tested the PXG irons? Are you using a set of generation previous to these? I'd like to hear what you have to say. But for me, an absolute winner.